what's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to episode 13 of the Double ETF podcast, Everything Except the Football. I hope you guys are doing great. Today we talk with John Lamoreaux, host of the Hustle podcast. We covered many different topics. We talked about religion a fair bit, and it was, of course, respectful. I learned quite a few things as well, which is always good. Also, music, of course, sports, travel, and a couple of weird tangents, which is always fun. What else? Well, you can reach me at EETFpod on Twitter or EETFpodcast@gmail.com. Oh yeah, I gotta thank former guest of the show, Carly Anderson, for her very generous donation. And if you too want to be awesome, you can contribute to the show either that way or you can leave reviews on iTunes. Or next week should be a listener questions episode. So if you want to send me questions, you can do that. That would be most welcome. And as always, thank you for listening. And that's it. Without further ado, here is my conversation with John Lamoreaux. All right, so with me today, I have the host of the Hustle podcast, John Lamoreaux. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Patrick. Thank you for asking me to do this. I'm honored.
My pleasure. So we know each other through the Name That Tune weekly quiz. But still, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, let's see. Okay, so I'm 47. I live in Denver, Colorado, and we moved here quite a while ago, I guess, 15, 16, 17 years ago, something like that. It was for a job. I don't know how I did this, Patrick, but somehow I stumbled into being a software sales rep, and I've been doing it for many years. That was not the plan.
What was the plan?
Well, I got my degree in print journalism. So the plan was originally to be like a newspaper reporter. And but my other dream gig would have been something in the music industry. And this tells you how poor my foresight is because neither of those things really exist anymore. And so I was living in the Bay Area, which is really expensive. And I needed a job. And a good friend of mine said, I'm working for IBM. And why don't you apply there too? And I was like, I don't even know anything about software or sales or anything like that. And they're like, don't worry about it. They'll show you. And I did it and I got the job and it pays pretty well. And so you get kind of accustomed to a certain, way of life. And it would... So it's an internal struggle because I don't, I'm not super passionate about what I do or anything, but I like the comfortable life that we have. And so, when you have those moments of questioning yourself and thinking, am I doing the right thing? I should have taken that risk when I was younger. I should follow my heart, all those things. Yeah. And then you think, but then I'd be poor and I have 3 kids to raise.
Well, yeah, that's the big factor.
It is.
So.
Do you have kids, Patrick?
No, I don't.
Okay. Just so you know, you're a mystery to me too. Someone needs to do the reverse of this. So I may pepper some of my questions back at you during this.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, no problem. So you mentioned you were living in the Bay Area before Denver. Is that where you're from, though, originally?
No, well, so, okay. I claim I'm basically from Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up in the Bay Area till I was about 10. My family moved to Utah. We stayed there until I graduated from high school in 1991. And 3 weeks after I graduated, we moved to Cambridge, England.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. My dad was a flight attendant for United Airlines. And so I grew up just being able to go anywhere I ever wanted to go. I had a stack of tickets in my room. I would just fill them out, go to the airport. You'd have to fly standby, but just go somewhere, And
I'm jealous.
I know you being such a traveler. And I wish, it's one of those things now. I wish I had taken more risks because I really only just flew to places where I knew people so that I would have a place to stay, I wish now that I had thought it through a little bit more, but you're dumb when you're young. So Anyway,
We all are.
yes, we are. So yeah, so I moved to, and then after, and so we lived in England, and I was there 9 or 10 months, and I grew up Mormon, and you probably have seen those Mormon missionaries out there on their bicycles and
Yes.
the tags. So I did that, and the church sent me to Lansing, Michigan, to
Oh,
do
wow.
I
Okay.
know to do my 2 year Mormon mission. Every friend of mine that went on a mission went to some far off, sexy, exotic place,
Yeah,
and
and
I
you
got
got
to go.
stuck in
I
Michigan.
did,
Poor,
sure
poor
did.
you.
Yeah, I sure did. So I was a little bummed about that, and I had this fear that the more exciting your mission call was, the more God liked you. You know, so
Oh.
if I'm going to Michigan, then He must not like me very much, or think I have anything going for me. But you learn that's not the case. Anyway, so after that, and then I went back to Utah for school, graduated from BYU eventually, and then life began.
And when you first moved to Utah, was it because of your dad's job?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, because he was a flight attendant, he could live anywhere. So he would just it's a matter of where you were based out of. So he would be based out of San Francisco, or he would be based out of Denver or Chicago or something. So my mom's from Salt Lake City, my dad's from Idaho. I mean, when you're Mormon, Utah is kind of a hub. You know, we have tons of
Yes.
family and friends, and so I don't know why exactly, but right then and there in 1983, they decided, let's go back to Utah and be around family. So they did.
Okay. And are you still? I mean, okay, religion is a minefield when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to a discussion.
Uh huh.
I know that. But are you still not gonna say a, not gonna say believer, but do
Mm-hmm.
you still practice?
It's so interesting the way you just chose those words, because if you had asked me if I was a believer, I
Uh-huh.
would say no.
Okay.
Since you asked me if I practice, I say yes, because there's a lot of Mormonism is based on a lot of mythology, and
Okay.
I used to believe in it, and I don't anymore. However, I really love the culture I came from. I love the structure in my life. I love that it's the common thread between me and so many good friends and family and people that I love and respect. And so I stick it out, but I don't stick it out. I stick it out on my terms. I stick it out because I do it the way I want to do it.
Okay. Hmm.
And there's a lot of it's a pretty strict religion, as you probably know. But I'm still not a drinker. I don't cheat on my wife. I don't do drugs. I'm not dishonest. So I still live my life by the same rules. I just am not motivated by the same belief system.
Hmm. I remember that was, oh God, I was still living with my parents. That was ages ago. I had Mormons knock on my
Mm-hmm.
door
Mm-hmm.
at some point. They were pretty friendly, and I think I talked with them for like 20 minutes, and I might have taught them quite a bit actually, because I knew I was a big college football fan back then, and BYU had a
Mm-hmm.
pretty decent team.
Mm-hmm.
But I also learned that like guys like Jim McMahon and Steve Young, and the big, the quarterbacks, they,
Mm-hmm.
most of them didn't have to do the 2 year mission,
It's true.
and the guys didn't know about that. And
Mm-hmm.
also it gave kind of an advantage to some of those players, because like if you take an offensive lineman, he goes
Mm-hmm.
away for 2 years and then
Mm-hmm.
he comes back. So you can wind up with a 25-year-old offensive lineman against a 19-year-old
That's
defensive
right.
lineman.
That's right. That's a constant. I don't know if it's a criticism, but it's a commentary on the school for sure.
Mhm.
There's guys who go on their missions, and there's guys who choose not to. Steve Young, who I used to be sort of friendly with, he didn't go on one. But for instance, the backup quarterback for the New Orleans Saints is Taysom Hill, and he went to BYU, and he did go on a 2 year mission.
I didn't
And
know that.
so it's just you never know.
Okay, but so you're saying that the player at the end of the day, he decides.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyone who goes on a Mormon mission, that's their choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, you're encouraged to go. It's good if you go, but it's no one's making you go. And so athletes oftentimes will not go because they're already sort of in the flow of their athletic career. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them taking those 2 years off might, like for instance, Sean Bradley, who was the basketball player, right?
Yes.
He played a year and then he went on his mission, and he was so highly recruited that when he came home from his mission, I don't think he even played again and still went third in the draft because the Philadelphia 76ers were so sure that he was not going to lose a step when he came home.
Cannot teach height.
No, you can't. I met him once. I'm 6'8", and I only came to his shoulder, or maybe even less. It was crazy.
He's 7'6", I think.
Yeah,
right?
he is.
Jeez, wow.
So yeah, it's totally by choice. You can do it or not do it.
Okay. So actually, you just answered one of my questions. I was going to mention, I've seen you on a few pictures and you tower over people, but I had no idea how tall the other people were, so I had no reference. Are you 6'11" or 6'7"?
I'm 6'8". I'm 6'7" and like 3/4 or something. Right. So yeah, 6'8".
Did you have a growth spurt or?
I was always the tallest. In the States when you were young and you'd have your class picture taken, the tallest guy would always be in the middle on the top row. Yes. And I was just always that guy. And so, yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
That's a really good question, Patrick. Not really. I mean, I don't have any problem with it now, obviously. But at the time it was just, I'm not as big a person on the inside as I am on the outside. And so you become this, you're like magnetic to people with Napoleon complexes and always wanted to kind of, bring you down or make fun of you or whatever. And I'm not
have a go at you.
Exactly. And I'm not really that kind of a tough guy. And so that was hard. And I've been as tall as I am since I was about 14 or 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that some sports programs must have been really interested in you.
Yeah, this is one of my biggest regrets in life. I played a lot of basketball growing up, and so I would play in city leagues, and then I would get recruited to play in extra special leagues for just elite players and stuff like that. So I was playing basketball year round for most of my life. So junior high, as it is for most people, I have 2 kids in junior high now, is really tough, man. It was tough on me. I was nerdy. I had no friends. No girls liked me. It was just horrible. I mean, I just came home every day so depressed and suicidal and everything. And my junior high, the high school that we were all going to was going to be over full that year. And so they gave us all the option to go to a couple of different schools. And I thought, well, I hate these people that I went to junior high with. Why don't I go to one of the other schools? So I did. And what was interesting to me is when I made that decision, the coach of the basketball coach of the high school I was supposed to go to called me one day and said, if you come here, I'll guarantee you a spot on the team. And I was like, yeah, but you have no idea how bad junior high was. I don't really want to be with these people, And the coach of the high school that I chose to go to said, well, come on over here and we'll give you a shot. And then for whatever reason, I just never bothered to try out even. It wasn't that I lost you know what it was? I got on this kick at the exact wrong time, probably, when I'm so used to people saying, oh, you're so tall, you must play basketball. And I thought, no, why can't I be tall and be an intellectual? Why do I have to be a basketball player? And it was just a thorn in my side for a couple of years. And it was those years when I should have been playing high school basketball. And I've always regretted it.
And you always hear the same 10 jokes. How's the air up there? And
how's the weather up there? And Jolly Green Giant and Big John. Yeah, I've heard it all. So, yeah.
Oh, that sucks. If you don't mind, if we can circle back to religion a little bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
One thing, okay, I admit I know next to nothing about religion in general. Here, it was like 95% Roman Catholic. So we never were exposed to other religions, basically. Mm-hmm. My city, anyway. Mm-hmm. So the non-alcohol thing, I've heard so many rumors as to how it started. What were you told about that?
Boy, we're going down a doctrinal rabbit hole here, Patrick. So, as you probably know, the Mormon Church was started by Joseph Smith.
Yes.
Joseph Smith had what he claimed to be a series of revelations over many years. That's what produced the Book of Mormon. That's what produced the whole structure for the church.
Okay.
And early on, he received a revelation. I'm putting quotes around that, but revelation that came to be known as what's called the word of wisdom, or the Lord's law of health. And in that, he sort of told the church that strong drink was not good. And I think that those were the exact words, if I remember right.
Okay.
Over time, as often is the case, cultures kind of define what these things mean to them, right? And so alcohol became sort of outlawed. To this day, people don't drink in the church. Coffee and tea became defined as strong drink. And so there's not a lot of Mormons who drink coffee or tea. Okay?
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't drink coffee or tea, not necessarily for those reasons, although those were the reasons that I didn't do it growing up. Now I just don't want to. I'm 47.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, it's a little late in life to pick up habits. You know what I mean? Like we should be.
It depends if they're good.
Well, true, but I don't need to. I don't like feeling like I need something or I have a crutch.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that therefore a lot of Mormons don't drink Coke or Pepsi or Dr. Pepper because in their mind, the logic is, well, if I'm not supposed to drink coffee, and that's probably because of caffeine, therefore I probably shouldn't drink anything with caffeine. And so that's really old school. People are kind of past that now, but that is folklore, I would say. That's not hard doctrine.
One of the rumors I've heard was that it was his wife who kind of dared Joseph Smith to, you don't have the balls to forbid alcohol, pretty much, and that was one of the rumors, and I have no idea if that's true. Of course,
you're not far off, actually. So
okay.
the spark for this revelation was apparently that Joseph Smith, being the sort of burgeoning religious leader that he was, would have his comrades over to the house. And this is the 1840s or whatever, and so they're in little wooden cabins with candlelight and stuff like that, and everyone's chewing tobacco, and everyone's spitting the tobacco on the floor and stuff like that, and getting drunk or whatever. And so Emma Smith, Joseph Smith's wife, had a real problem. She was sick of having to clean up after the guys every time they would come over to the house.
Okay.
And she complained about it. And that now, diehards might tell you, no, the Lord spoke to Joseph Smith, and maybe, but the Lord may have conveniently spoken to Joseph Smith right after Emma Smith got mad at him.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay, so actually that rumor is kind of has got some traction.
Yes, you're not far off.
Awesome. Okay, if we can switch gears completely, your last name intrigues me, fascinates me because of its spelling. Because here in Quebec and in the rest of Canada, the spelling is not the same. So do you have any idea of its origin?
I do, yeah.
Tell me.
Okay, so I don't know when, 1400s or whatever, our people were from France, and they were what's called Huguenots.
Yes.
Which maybe you know what those are. Those were like religious revolutionaries,
yes.
Right?
Some of them settled in Germany as well.
Okay. So the Huguenots, the Lamoreaux Huguenots, escaped France, escaped anything relating to probably, the Church of England and any other religious oppression from Europe, and settled in, I believe, Toronto area. My people did.
Okay.
And eventually in 18 whatever, one of my ancestors owned a store in this town, and Mormon missionaries came through town, and the store had a room upstairs, and they rented out the room above this store to have as like a meeting place. Okay. My relatives who ran the store eventually became converted to Mormonism, and they left Canada, came down to the States. By then it was either Ohio or Illinois, to join the early Mormon pioneers who then, with Brigham Young, rode the hand carts to Utah and settled in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But as far as spelling goes, yeah, I mean, you probably know this. I mean, it's Lamour as in love. I've always been told, ladies, listen up. Lamoreaux means the great lover. That's what I've always told. Was always told. You could probably tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. But anyway, but most of Lamour has like a U in it. So, and I don't think it's EAUX. I think maybe it's AUX or something else. But anyway, it's a variation on that.
Mm-hmm. What I assumed for a while, I thought it was a Cajun spelling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
sounds like it's not. But yeah, the original word is l'amoureux. It means the lover.
Mm-hmm.
No great in it, sorry.
Well, let's be honest here, Patrick. If you're calling someone the lover, it's because they're great at it.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Or noteworthy, at least. Come on.
Yes, that's true. And the quote-unquote normal spelling or regular or usual spelling would be Lamoureux.
That's it. Okay.
So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so mystery solved. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your podcast, if
Sure.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
So it's called The Hustle.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing it?
We're coming up on 6 years.
Do you know how many episodes total?
Well, we put out every Tuesday, we put out a definitive episode. And I think yesterday or this week's was number 304.
Nice.
But we also, especially since COVID, have put out a lot of bonus material. So all told, we're at 420.
Oh, wow.
420. Some of you out there may love that.
Yes.
So, yes.
It's legal here.
So, well, lucky you, man.
And did you have the original idea?
Yeah. I was, I just for a while there was getting really obsessed with the idea of how do people pay their bills? If you had a hit in 1983, what are you doing now? And I would hear people on other podcasts or other interviews or whatever, sort of where are they now? And to me, those conversations usually were more promotional. It was like, I know I haven't been around for a while, but I'm working on a new album right now. And I've got this project going on and this project. And I always thought that I don't believe you. And besides that, I want to know, like, what have you been doing all this time? You disappeared. Where did you go? And how did you pay your bills when you left? And so I thought, I wonder if people, granted, you can't just come right out and say, how much money do you make? You have to kind of earn their trust to poke around that topic. So I thought, I wonder if I reached out to people I really loved that I don't hear from ever or hardly ever, and I let them know that I love them, maybe they would answer some of these questions for me. And so that was the impetus for the podcast. But eventually it became easier than I thought it would be to get decent guests. Now, granted, no matter who my guest is, I sort of go into the business side of things a little bit, but I'm not as focused on obscure bands that maybe had one hit or one album or, fleeting fame or whatever. Now I pretty much will talk to anybody.
Okay. Who would be your favorite guest? Like the one that stayed with you,
Yeah. There have been a few. I think this ties into a question you asked on a recent episode. So I'll just say this now. I'll never forget. I think it was episode 17, if I remember right. Early on, I interviewed Christopher Thorne, who was the guitarist for Blind Melon.
Okay.
And, keep in mind, other than getting a journalism degree and always having a sort of journalistic mind, I don't have connections in the music industry. I don't know anybody. No one hooked me up or helped me on this. I just started creating it all by myself. And so, I remember interviewing him and it going really, really well. And what a story anyway, you catapult to like world domination. You sell 4 million copies of your first album and the next one comes out and the front man for your business dies suddenly. What do you do with the rest of your life? Your whole world just ended. You thought you were going to be a rock star on top of the world from then on, and it doesn't happen. And, so I remember to this day, we put it out and I always send the guests a link to it afterwards if they want to check it out or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was in a conference room at work. So I was by myself and the email came in and it said, John, I just finished listening to the episode, and I have to be honest with you. And when I read those words, my heart sank because I thought, here it comes. That was terrible. You are Bush League. I can't believe I agreed to do this. And the next line was, that was the best interview I've ever done, and I've done millions of them.
Wow.
And even now, I start kind of getting choked up. I'm all goosebumpy because it just validated that I was doing something that matters. You know, all anyone in this life ever wants to do is find a thing that they're good at and that makes them happy. And I found a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, to hear that a guy who's been on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine thought that my little interview I'm a nobody was the best one just touched me. And that was the fuel I needed to keep going. Plus, it's a really fantastic episode, I think. So, and I'm not even like a huge Blind Melon fan. I just think that story is interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it was early on as well. So that was, the timing was perfect.
Yes, it was. And he shared it with his fans. And then I remember I was new to Twitter. I kind of hate Twitter, to be honest, but I only got on because I figured I should promote the podcast a little bit. And I remember all these fans of his retweeting and guys, Christopher said this is the best interview he's ever done. And I'm just like, that's me. They're talking about me, you know?
Nice.
The guy who does these in his basement in his underwear, that's me. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Too much information, but that's okay.
I know, sorry.
All right, it's all right. Is there, okay, so you can be as vague or as specific as you want, but do you remember one interview that didn't go as well as you would have hoped?
Yeah, there have been several of them. Yeah, there have been many. Now, there are ones that go crazy, where the person is kind of crazy. And sometimes they're crazy in a really entertaining way. Yeah. So for instance, and I'm just going to drop names. Oh, well.
Sure.
I had Alana Miles on, the woman who sang Black Velvet, the Canadian.
Yeah, she's Canadian. I think she's from Calgary, maybe.
She might. I don't remember. She might be. And her dad was, I guess, like a prominent broadcaster or something in Canada. Anyway,
possible.
She's nuts, and it became apparent very quickly in our interview that she was a little unhinged. Now, that one, I loved that one because I'm just sitting there while it's happening thinking, everyone is going to think she's crazy and not believe it. And I'm excited for people to experience that, you know? Now, there are some, like I interviewed Terrence Trent D'Arby, who doesn't go by that name anymore, and he's nuts too, but he's nuts in a way less entertaining way. And so they're
delusional.
Yes, very much so. And so there are ones where it's just boring. You know, like I thought there'd be a good story there and there wasn't. One that happened recently, speaking of Canada, I interviewed Thor. Do you know who Thor is?
It kind of rings a bell.
Okay, so he was a bodybuilder back in the 70s, like Mr. Universe or something.
Okay.
And he became a rock singer. And he would go on stage and bend bars of steel and blow up hot water bottles until they exploded. And it was this superhero thing of combining rock music and superhero performance art. And they made a documentary on him that was kind of interesting. And I thought, ooh, what's this guy's story? And it ended up not being very interesting. And I thought it would be. So sometimes I sniff them out and I'm wrong. Sometimes I get it right.
And sometimes you get pleasant surprises.
That's right. Yes, nice. For sure.
And what about the post-production process? Do you do a lot of editing or do you put it out as raw as possible?
I'm very lucky, Patrick, in the sense that I never do any of the editing because I do this with my friend. And my friend Jan Makevich, he lives in Scotland. He and I have been doing this together since around episode 19 or 20,
nice.
I think.
Okay.
And it's great because he's a tech guy. Believe it or not, I may sell software for a living, but tech gives me massive anxiety.
Okay.
And so I don't even really fully understand what I sell. I just do the job.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So anyway, but he's a real tech guy. And he loves this stuff. So, and he prefers to kind of be behind the scenes. So I always joke around that he's DJ Jazzy Jeff and I'm the Fresh Prince.
Oh, nice.
And so we each do the thing that we're good at, you know? And that was something that was really kind of because I had the idea of the podcast for a long time, and I thought, I don't know anyone. No one's going to come through Denver for me to interview them. I couldn't edit these things together if I wanted to because I'm so tech illiterate. How would I even do this? And luckily, a friend of mine from high school offered to help out. And he said, "What? You do the interviews, I'll do the audio engineering. We're great."
Nice.
And then he got a job that required like really long hours, and so he couldn't do it anymore. And I thought, well, now who's going to do this? And it's tricky because whoever did it with me, the last thing I would want is for anyone to do this because they think they're doing me a favor.
Okay.
That's no fun, you know? I don't want someone doing grunt work for me. So it needed to be somebody who thought where we could be equal partners in this. And I'll do my part, you do your part, and together we put out this thing we're proud of. And luckily, Jan felt that way and caught that vision. And so we've been partners ever since.
How did you guys meet?
So when I moved to England, as I mentioned, in 1991, the local Mormon church congregation, they're called wards, we went to church and his family were in that ward and our families became really good friends. And he went on a mission shortly after I moved there. So we only hung out really for a little while, but our families have remained close over 30 years now. So I just thought, it needed to be a particular kind of personality. And I thought Jan would have that personality and it worked out.
Nice. Okay, so he takes care of the tech stuff. So if we go back to the guests, just for a quick second, is there one guest that you have in mind, and it's like I would be over the moon if I could get that guy?
There's a few of them. Steve Winwood is one of my top guests. Now I'm trying to think realistically here. I mean, of course I'm never going to interview Steve Winwood, but realistically, I would love to talk to Kurt Smith or either of the guys from Tears for Fears because I love them. Bruce Hornsby is another guy that I find really interesting. Anita Baker, Nina Cherry, another guy. Tops of my list was Mark Hollis of Talk Talk, but he died a couple of years ago. And anyway, just these people who I really like their music. They are mysterious. And they've done odd things to me in their career, taken odd turns here and there. I just want to get into the mind of people who've done that. Why did you do that? What was your thinking when you did that? And so those are some of the people that I would love to talk to.
Are you worried that some of them might see your podcast as the has-been podcast?
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean. I'm not saying that to be an asshole or anything.
No, it's interesting you say that, Patrick, because that did happen to me once. So originally, as I said, the focus of the podcast was on sort of where did these people go? And luckily it's evolved over time. But I didn't update, for instance, the tag of the definition of it or description of it on iTunes for a while. One of my favorite singer-songwriters is Paul Kelly from Australia. I don't know if you know who that is. He's kind of like an Australian, I don't know, almost Paul Westerberg or Bruce Springsteen or something. I just think he's great.
Okay.
And I had a chance to interview him a couple of years ago, and it was set up and everything. And then he changed his mind because he got the impression that my podcast was just for has-beens, and he's not a has-been. And I thought, absolutely, that's not true, but I don't want anyone thinking that, So I changed the definition of the show, and I've just viewed to see it. I choose to see it as legacy artists. I focus mostly on people from about 1975 to 1995 because that's kind of my sweet spot, and that was sort of the height of the music business as we know it anyway. So no, I just like to hear fun stories, and I don't really care, where they come from or what kind of music they make or whatever. I don't think of any of them as has-beens. In fact, if anything, it's like, I love you so much. Just come on my show and let me love you for an hour. What do you have better to do? And so anyway, I hope that is not the impression of the podcast.
And besides, it's not even fair to laugh at a one-hit wonder because they got there, if only for a few weeks. They've been where 99.9% of the artists will never be.
Yeah, I know. And some of them have built their entire careers off this. I mean, they can still play 80s festivals. They can still tour. They can still whatever. But I mean, even that, I just and I try to take pride in making sure that if they're going to come on, I'm not just going to ask them for the millionth time about that one hit. I want them to know that I go beyond that. I know more than your one hit, I'm more invested than that. And most of the time, I think they get that. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm lucky that I've had some pretty good guests over the years, is because it's a love fest. It's not just, I don't know.
You're not there to laugh at them.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nope.
And besides, your journalistic background must come in really handy for those situations, because you do the research, you can ask the right questions.
Yeah.
You know how to, interact with people. That helps.
Yeah. And not to bring up Mormonism again, but that's actually a big part of all of this that I don't know if people realize. So in the Mormon church, there's no paid clergy. So everything is voluntary. So we don't, every week, the main meeting, individuals from the congregation are assigned talks ahead of time. We'd like you to come up, and in 2 weeks, we want you to give a talk on this scripture or this, whatever, thought or idea or process or whatever. And all the classes are taught by volunteers as well. And I have given so many talks in my life and taught so many classes in my life at church that I'm used to speaking in front of people. I'm used to having to make something interesting. I'm used to asking different questions that are beyond the pat questions that everyone gets, because I've had to do that hundreds of times in my life at church. And so I just sort of apply a natural journalistic instinct with an ability to speak in front of people, thanks to church stuff. And that's where the podcast comes from.
You probably could have been a teacher.
I hear that a lot, actually, Patrick.
And join the other teachers in that tune.
It's so funny you say that. I had to give a talk in church just a couple of weeks ago. And afterwards, my wife was like, "Are you sure you shouldn't have been a teacher?" And she's right. I hear it. I hear that all the time. I am sure, Patrick, that I messed up my life somewhere. I don't know.
That's harsh.
I know. It is.
You're being too hard on yourself, I think.
Well, at the end, if I were to die tomorrow, I would have so many regrets about not doing certain things, not following my heart. I lived too much in fear. I didn't take the chances I should have taken. I just overthought things, and I have a lot of regrets about that. Luckily, I have a very good life, and everything is great. But it could have been maybe better or more satisfying if I had really, I don't know, just taken the chances necessary to tap into some things that I'm actually really good at or more passionate about. I don't know.
Well, you're still young. I mean, we are the same age.
Are we?
I'm 48.
Okay.
If there is something that you want to do that could be like related to your original passion, you could there might be a way to integrate that into your daily life.
There might be. And that's thankfully where the podcast comes from, to be honest, is, I don't know about you. This might be too deep for some people, but prior to the podcast, there would be a big portion of my brain that would run through. There's a voice in my brain talking about the things I just said. You didn't do the thing you were going to do. You're 45 years old, and what do you have to show for it? You didn't do any of the things you said you were going to do. Now you sell software for a living. Is this what you want from your life? And that voice is just on a loop in my head all the time. The beauty of having started the podcast and doing it is that I'm so preoccupied with that it quiets that voice in my brain that tells me I'm not doing anything. So granted, I don't make a living off doing the podcast, but it satisfies that creative urge that was sitting there for decades, not without me knowing what to do about it.
What's the expression? It scratches that
Yes,
itch.
That's it.
So, yeah. I mean, would there be another thing that would have been that you would have liked to try? Or?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to write for Rolling Stone magazine, or that was kind of the big dream. I thought boy, we're getting into it. It's so funny. I've listened to all your episodes, and some of them I'll listen and I think, if I were ever on Patrick's show, I would just keep it short, because I don't think anyone wants to hear that much about me. But now here I am, just unloading on you anyway. Sorry, Patrick.
No, go.
So
don't apologize. I mean,
okay.
No, really, go nuts.
Okay,
it's not a problem at all. On the contrary.
Okay, thank you. I think only our name that tune, people might even care. But anyway, thanks, guys. So here's the deal. So originally, growing up, the plan was always to go into broadcasting. I wanted to be like a sportscaster or host Entertainment Tonight or something like that.
Oh, okay. So you were more interested in TV rather than written
Yes.
journalism.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the plan forever. And then I'm in college, and I start dating a girl who is a anchor woman on the news, right? And she would talk to me about the kind of behind the scenes culture of people sort of fighting for airtime. And the way that she would talk about it, it was so much more about show business to a lot of these people, getting dolled up, getting on camera a lot, getting the right makeup, wearing the right clothes, and competing with other people. And I thought, none of that is the reason I want to go into broadcasting. That's not what is interesting to me. Communicating and telling a story and reporting news, that's what's interesting. I don't want this because I want anyone looking at me. I want to be the conduit of a story. And the way that she talked about it made it sound so much just like show business. And you start out in like Cedar Rapids making $20,000 a year, and you're there for 5 years, and maybe you move up a little bit, and then
maybe,
you know what I mean? And I just thought, none of that sounds good to me. And that's when I changed my major to print, because I thought that's legitimate. I want to be a true newsman, not a showbiz person. And so I changed. And that's one of those things that maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have stuck it out with broadcasting and just had the fortitude to do what I wanted to do, or do it on my terms. But I'll never know because I went the other way.
But the thing is, she was a woman in a not going to say in a man's world, but that she must have gotten so much shit from macho people in a news station. So that would make anyone pretty cynical pretty fast.
She was also Canadian, by the way. I just realized.
Oh, okay.
In Calgary. So how about that?
Yeah,
little connection.
Wow.
There. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If we stick to music, but different track, do you play any instruments?
No, I don't. And, more regrets here. My dad taught piano my entire life.
Oh, wow.
So I've had a grand piano in my home my entire life. And he and I did not see eye to eye when I was a kid. He taught piano, he conducted orchestras, I played basketball, and I didn't want to go do what he wanted me to do, and he didn't want to come do what I wanted to do. And so the best way to rebel against dad was to just not touch music.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I don't play anything. I wish that I did. I did try piano a couple times, and I didn't stick with it.
Do you think you would have a talent for it?
I don't know. I've thought about that. I've tried playing guitar a few times, and I just fat finger everything. And so I don't know. I've wondered that exact thing. I always wonder what would unlock your question that's going to come up later about speaking a language or playing instruments. Mm-hmm. What would it unlock if you did learn those things? Is there a side to me that I don't even know exists that would flourish under those circumstances? And I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unlock an entire side of your personality, So if we stick to music still, what would you say is your top 3 bands?
Okay. So I have a holy trinity when it comes to top 3.
Okay.
They are David Bowie, Hall & Oates, and Neil Finn / Credit House.
All right.
So those are my guys. Just outside of that holy trinity, there are Earth, Wind & Fire, Simple Minds, Tears for Fears, Massive Attack, a few others, the Smiths, stuff like that. But the holy trinity are those 3.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
If we move back to sports, you played basketball, you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Which position?
I was the center.
Yeah.
What else could I be at 6'8"?
It makes sense, yeah. In the NBA, you would probably be a power forward.
That's right.
But center. Did you try other sports?
Some. I played some baseball, like Little League and stuff like that. I was never very good at anything else. I swam a lot in high school, not competitively necessarily, but I would say I was athletic without being actually good at anything but basketball.
Okay. And did you enjoy any of those other sports or?
I enjoyed baseball a lot. I was terrible at it, and that made it hard. Um,
Which
Other
position?
than that, baseball, everything. I wasn't good enough, so I was in, what is that, right field?
Yeah.
Is that where they put the worst guy?
Yes.
Yeah, that's me. So I was in right field. I would sometimes play third base. I had a really good arm when I was a kid, so I tried to be a pitcher, and it never worked out.
I was going to mention that you would have been a terrifying pitcher.
I know, and I had a pretty fast arm as a 12-year-old throwing like 75 miles an hour, but
Jesus.
it never worked out. And I've tried soccer. And I know you and your Canadian buddies on this show like to go big on soccer and hockey.
Yes.
I have nothing to add to either of those things. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's
Okay.
No problem. My next question was travel, question mark.
Yes.
You mentioned living in England for about 9 or 10 months, I think. Would you have stayed had you had the option?
Probably not. So as I mentioned, I moved over there right after high school, and I immediately went to college. It's called Sixth Form College.
Okay.
And it's kind of an extension. It's almost like junior college. There's grade school, sixth form college, and then there's university.
Okay.
And so the other thing too was that they're on kind of a different system. There you go to school for like a year or two and then take your exams at the end. And that's when you graduate. And I was there, a couple of months. I was in class a couple of months and then decided to go on my Mormon mission. So it didn't make sense for me to even be back in school. Okay. And to be completely honest, I was so homesick. So I don't know. I mean, my whole family was there. I was homesick for America. So I don't know that I would have stuck it out. Now I really, really want to take my family and move to the UK for a couple of years at some point. I hope that works out at my job at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say they probably have opportunities for that.
Yeah, there's nothing right now. And I haven't been at this particular company for that long yet. So I'm sort of waiting until I prove my value for a few years and then, earn the right to go. But that's kind of a bucket list thing, is to take the family and move to the UK for a couple of years.
And have you had the chance to visit other countries?
Yeah. So I mentioned going to Michigan on my mission. My dad went to Norway on his. And
Nice.
So we went to Scandinavia a bunch when I was a kid.
He probably learned the Norwegian as well.
He did, and he spoke Norwegian, Swedish, Danish. I never learned it, but he spoke it
I'm jealous.
my whole life. Yeah.
My God.
So, yeah. So we went back to Norway and Sweden especially a lot, every few years. And when I was in college one year, my friends were going backpacking around Europe, and they invited me to go with them at the last minute. And that sounds great. And it was. Most of the time people backpack for like an entire summer. Ours was for like 10 days in between semesters. So and the girl who was my friend, she had also lived in Cambridge, England. She was American, but she had lived in Cambridge, been friends with Jan and his family. We know all the same people. And so we flew to England, and then we spent a day in London with our friends. We would sleep on the trains at night going, to the next city or whatever, get up 7:00 in the morning, land, whatever, in
land at
Rome
the train station.
Florence. Yes. Land in Rome or Florence, spend the day in Rome and Florence or whatever, Pisa, that kind of stuff. Get back on the train at night, go to, Switzerland, spend the day. So we did that for 10 days or whatever. And that made up like the bulk of my European travel. I went with my dad one time to New Zealand. That was fantastic.
Wow.
Most of these trips, keep in mind, they're layovers for him. So I'm there like 36 hours or 48 hours,
Okay.
So there was a trip to New Zealand. There was a trip to Hong Kong. My wife and I travel. We went to Mexico City a couple of years ago. We went to my favorite city in the world is Paris. Nice. We did that 3 or 4 years ago.
All right.
So yeah. I love to travel. I want to do it more. I will admit, I tend to go to the same places that I like over and over versus experimenting and exploring. And I wish that I didn't do that, but that's just what we do.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing because Paris is so rich in history and so vast that you could go there 25 times and discover new
Yeah.
things.
It's true.
So
It's true.
yeah.
We go to Hawaii like every couple of years, and so that's kind of our spot is the North Shore of the Wahoo. In fact, we're going again in a couple of months. That's just our favorite place.
Ever tried surfing?
Oh man, you ask all these questions that hit these nerves.
I'm sorry.
No, they're great. It's perfect. You're so good at this, by the way. You're so good at this. Every time I listen to this,
Oh,
I
thanks.
think, man, he's good. No, I've never tried surfing, and I've always wanted to. And I'm huge, so it's not like something that would come easily for me, I don't think. But yeah, I regret it. I wish that I had.
It's not too late.
Well, you're not 6'8", 290, Patrick.
I'm not.
So, no, okay.
But it's not easy because your center of gravity is higher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's probably not easy.
No.
But,
no.
bucket
But
list.
I'm okay laying on the beach. Yes, bucket list. One of these days, it'll happen.
That's one of the questions that I could add at some point. Name me 3 items on your bucket list.
Yes.
All right.
You should incorporate that into your questionnaire.
What if I do it today? What if I start today?
Okay, I have a few.
Please.
One, and these relate. Again, going back to the questions I know you ask a lot. The place that I want to go on the earth more than I want to do an African safari. So my bucket list would be to do a safari in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Another bucket list relates to myself and my own personal goals and health, which is that I would love to run at least a half marathon. I'm not a runner. I'm not built for running, but I aspire to it, even though I'm not good at it. And then the third thing is one of my dreams is to sit courtside at a Utah Jazz basketball game.
Nice. That should be feasible.
You would think, right? I hope that happens. And I want to sit like right next to them, so that I can hear them. I just remembered I have one more, and that is I've asked my wife several times for this. She's not on board. I want to pay for a band that I love to come play in my house. Yes.
Wow, okay.
And keep in mind, like I said, the whole impetus for the podcast was to find these kind of obscure bands, right? So it's like, what better do you have to do? I'm going to pay for you to come out here, and I'm going to give you a list of my favorite songs of yours, guy that no one's heard of for 40 years. And you're going to sit in the chair in my living room, and you're going to play them. And you're going to tell me stories about it. And I'm going to lay on the floor and just love you. So you'll make a few bucks on this. How hard could it be? But she won't let me do it. I've actually looked into it a couple of times.
Okay. So I guess the most feasible one on that list is the Utah courtside.
Yeah.
If you go to a safari, don't kill any animals, please.
I would. No way.
Okay.
No way.
Just making sure.
Nope. I just want to look at them.
All right. Awesome. But no, yeah, I'm knocking on wood for the courtside seat for sure. All right. So if you don't mind, we can track back to my quote-unquote regular list of questions.
Sure.
All right.
Do it.
Okay, so...
Bring it.
Okay, so we talked about sports a little bit, but I guess you're not big enough of a sports guy to care, quote-unquote, for sports movies in general, right?
No, absolutely I am. I believe me, I'm ready for this question, Patrick.
Okay.
To me, the best sports movie ever is Bull Durham. I get some flack for that, but that to me is the best sports movie ever, because it doesn't hinge on winning the big game. It's about the culture of minor league baseball players and what they have to go through. I think that movie is genius. That to me is the best sports movie, let alone baseball movie.
No, yeah, that's
the best sports movie that's kind of a traditional sports movie is probably Hoosiers. That one is fantastic.
Yeah. What do you think of, you mentioned the baseball. The one that popped into my mind is Field of Dreams. Did you like it?
I'll be honest, I haven't seen it since it was in the theater. I may have seen it like once or twice since then. It's cute. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cute. It's kind of a hokey. It's not hokey. That's probably the wrong word, but it's a little kind of Disney-fied version. But
whimsical, is that the right word?
Whimsical, that's a good word. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great movie, but it's not, it's more about the whimsy of sports versus like the gritty
Yes.
real lifeness of
Yeah,
sports.
yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
what about what was the other one? Kevin Costner played in another one. Was it For the Love of
Yeah.
the Game?
For Love of the
Yes.
Game. That one's kind of lame.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm not
He's
missing anything.
he's pitching a perfect game. And while he's doing that, he's thinking about like his wife or girlfriend or whatever and challenges in his life. So the baseball parts are fine. The non-baseball parts are soap opera-ish. So no, you can skip that one.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. There is, if you do care about, there's a fantastic baseball movie called Sugar that came out a few years ago, 10 years ago now, maybe, about a guy from the Dominican Republic, if I remember right, who plays minor league baseball, but he gets assigned to like this team out in the middle of nowhere in Iowa or something like that. And just the culture shock, this guy who barely speaks English, black man, from the Dominican or wherever he was from, adjusting to life in the minor leagues, making no money, living with a white old couple in this tiny podunk, farm town in Iowa or whatever. It's a fascinating movie. It's really good.
I've never heard of it, but I'll look it up. A good one that I remember, I just saw it once ages ago, was a 8 Men Out.
That's a great one too. Yeah. And that one is, that's equal parts probably baseball and courtroom drama, but that's a really good movie.
Okay. So what about the sports books?
So there are a couple. One of the best sports books, and I'm not the only one who feels this way, is called Breaks of the Game. And it's by David Halberstam, I think. Halberstam. It's about the 1977 Portland Trailblazers, I believe. Bill Walton was on the team.
Okay.
And Bill Simmons, if you know who that is, he talks about this book a lot. It's as good as they say. It's basically detailing the year after they win the championship. Okay. So how does it affect you? How does it go to your head? How does a team repeat? What needs to happen? That was a good one. There was a Joe DiMaggio biography that came out a while ago now, 20 years ago probably. That was really interesting because that guy is a jerk. And but he's one of the greatest baseball players ever. So you see this fantastic player burdened by these just demons of being a jerk to everybody. It's a real dichotomy.
Okay. All right. What would be, so we might as well stick to sports in that section. What is your earliest memory of a sports game or a sports event?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Bay Area. And so the Oakland A's baseball team were my team. And Ricky Henderson played for the A's, and he was my favorite player. I had posters. I had 20 posters of him on my wall growing up. He was the man. And so my earliest memories would be, and I started collecting baseball cards around 1982, I think it was. I was 9. Mm-hmm. And so my favorite thing was to watch Oakland A's baseball games and have all my baseball cards with me and look up all the guys that are playing and their stats. And, I'd keep score and stuff like that. And so I went to a game once around 82, probably. They played in Oakland. They beat the Twins. I'll never forget, 3-2. And so yeah, early Oakland A's, early 80s Oakland A's are my earliest memories.
All right. And what would you say is your favorite or most memorable game that you saw in person?
I'm proud of this question. I knew this was coming, Patrick. This one I didn't even have to think about. So I was at the game where Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's baseball record.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice. I happened to be in San Francisco that day for work. And I used to live in the Bay Area, as I mentioned. And my best friend, Jason, who's the guy who got me that job at IBM, he actually passed away a year ago of brain cancer, unfortunately. He still lived in the Bay Area. And so I told him, after I was probably there for a work conference or something, after it was over, I said, the Giants are here. This is the night that Barry may break the record. Why don't you come up here and we'll go to a game together? And we did. We bought tickets off of the Scalper, and they weren't actually that bad. They were like $60, maybe $75. And we were on the third base line.
Nice.
Not far off from the dugout. And sure enough, every time, I think, if I remember correctly, I think Barry hit it on his second time at bat. And the first time, there's a just thousands of flashes going off in the entire stadium. And the time he did it, I remember watching him do it and his posture and the ball sailing and then Hank Aaron coming up. Now, keep in mind, I hate Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
I'm not proud that I saw history being made, but I'm not proud of that history because he was a cheater and a steroid user and a bad guy in general. And Hank Aaron is a wonderful man. And I'm not happy about any of this, but I happen to be there.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, I was happy about that.
That's a pretty good one. So I guess we can ask the same questions, but with music this time. What is your favorite music movie?
Music movie. I think I'm going to have to go with Sing Street. Oh. I think a couple other people have mentioned this.
Yeah, was it?
I think Andy Solomon mentioned
it.
Yes,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
That is a really wonderful movie. And Almost Famous was also big for me too. I know that one's been brought up. That was I remember I was a journalism student at BYU aspiring to write for Rolling Stone. And here I'm watching this movie about a little kid who did this. And it feels like my heart is going to explode out of my chest because I want the life that is depicted in this movie so badly. And I think that's what I'm going for. And then me being me, I talk myself out of it. Well, what if I go and some band that I'm interviewing wants me to like do drugs with them. I don't want to do drugs. And well, just say no. But how many times are you going to say no before you piss off the people at Rolling Stone? And anyway, I way overthought it and it didn't work out. But anyway, and I love Cameron Crowe. He was an idol of mine for so long, but he's gotten so bad the last 20 years that it's got me wondering if he was ever as good as I thought he was. So anyway, Sing Street, I think, is probably number one now.
Okay. But it's not easy for filmmakers or anyone. It's not easy to keep your fastball forever,
It's true. It's true. I just, I loved him. If I could have had anybody's life, it would have been Cameron Crowe's, and then he kind of fell off, and now I don't feel that way anymore, but I love the guy.
Nice. What about books? What would be your favorite book related to music?
There were a couple. One of them, which I don't know why I loved it so much, I just really did. It was called From the Velvets to the Voidoids, and it was basically a kind of a history book of New York City post-punk, like CBGB's, Television, Blondie, that kind of stuff. But it also brought in Devo, the The Dead Boys. Gosh.
Oh, okay.
Forgot it. Anyway, just that I love that time and place in music, and reading about it from this book really opened my eyes. And I love reading music books while listening to the music that is being written about. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of fun to follow along in that book. The other one is a 2-part massive Elvis Presley biography. It's called, one of them's called Last Train to Memphis, and the other I think is called Precious Love or Dangerous Love or something like that. I can't stress this enough. I could not care less about Elvis Presley. But this book is famous, and it's so amazingly detailed and researched that you almost get like a day-to-day report of what it was like being Elvis Presley. And it's just fascinating. So fascinating. And I did not see that coming because I don't care about Elvis at all. It's probably the best nonfiction book or set of books I've ever read.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you remember one book or one movie, let's combine 2 questions, that you absolutely hated? You couldn't stand it.
I've been thinking about this because a lot of the movies that take heat, like Can't Stop the Music or The Apple or some of those goofy movies, I actually really like those. I think they're kind of fun. Probably the least favorite, I was thinking about this and I meant to look it up. There was a movie with John Travolta in the 90s when like his career was really, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, before Pulp Fiction. I think it was called Shout or Sing
I think
or something like that.
Shout rings a bell.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's so bad. Okay. And of course the Sgt. Pepper Bee Gees movie is bad. But, even the ones that are bad, I still kind of have a soft spot for. Music is fun no matter what. So, yeah, there's good and bad.
Do you remember your first concert?
My first concert was Night Ranger, and it was 1984, I think. My mom was the manager of a local mall. She was the assistant to the president of the mall. And so sometimes concert tickets would come into the office. And if the president didn't want them and the vice president didn't want them and his secretary didn't want them and the maintenance guy didn't want them, it would make his way to my mom, right?
Okay.
And so she took them. And so me and my mom, when I was 11 years old, went and saw Night Ranger when Sister Christian was popular and stuff. Yeah, that was my first concert.
All right. What about your favorite concert?
The best concert I've ever seen was fairly recently. It was that David Byrne American Utopia concert. Yeah, I saw it at Red Rocks here. What's that been, like 3 years ago now? It blew me away. Anyone who's seen the movie, I haven't watched it yet on HBO. I intend to, but there's a filming of it now. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And it was mostly performance art. And the thing is, I love the Talking Heads. Most people do, but I don't care that deeply about David's solo.
Okay.
His solo career. So I didn't go in like super excited to go, but I saw the set list ahead of time and he was playing some deep cuts that I really liked. And I thought, sure, I'll go. And you forget that this is the guy who came up with Stop Making Sense, one of the greatest concert films ever. And so it really knocked me out. That's the best concert I've ever been to. Prior to that, it was Springsteen. I've seen Springsteen a couple of times. And the first time it's a revival. It's a religious experience. It really is.
What's the name of that movie? The one with David Byrne?
American Utopia is I think was the name of that tour. And there's the concert film that's on HBO based on that tour, I believe is called American Utopia.
Ah, okay. Same name then. Do you remember? Well, you probably do remember. What is the concert that you hated?
The worst concert
Yes.
The worst concert I think I ever went to was Todd Rundgren.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I like Todd fine. And there are people he's practically like a religion to some people. And he was coming through Denver. And I thought, let's go to Todd Rundgren and see what he's all about. And I went, and it was so frustrating because most things he would sing a song, one of his hits, and he'd sing it really half-heartedly, like he didn't care that much. He'd kind of toss it off. And then he would just make up or sing jingles from like radio shows from when he was a kid or TV shows or just goofy little ditties that he'd make up on the spot. And he would do that for 20 minutes. And then he'd rush off and play, I don't know, some hit of his real quick. And then he would go back and sing the ditties and the radio songs. And it's just like, man, people like this? Are you serious?
Is he losing his mind?
I don't know. And it's funny. I was complaining to a guy that was there and he's like, well, you saw that this was called an improvisational night with Todd Rundgren, right? Or something like that. And I was like, well, I thought it was going to be better than this.
Yeah, that's not an excuse,
Exactly. I went and saw him again a couple of years ago and it was more of a straightforward concert. It was good, but that was so frustrating that night.
Nice. Do you remember one concert crowd that turned into a scary experience?
I don't know about scary. I saw a Sex Pistols reunion concert in San Francisco at the Warfield, and the openers were, why am I blanking on them? The Boston ska punk band, Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Those guys are great. And before that, it was Reverend Horton Heat, and the mosh pit, which I was standing in, was crazy the entire night. Jesus. And I thought that I was going to get killed. And the other one was a few years ago, I went and saw Echo and the Bunnymen and the Violent Femmes at a big place here in Denver, and the air conditioning or something didn't work. Ooh. It was 200 degrees in there. People are passing out. Everyone's sweaty. It's packed to the gills. The show is late because the heat is causing, electricity things to not work properly. It was miserable. We're all cramped together. People are passing out but can't fall to the ground because they're cramped so close. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So anyway, it was a mess. Yeah. Those are the two worst, probably.
What year was that?
That was just, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that.
My God. Okay. I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
It was bad. It was bad.
Is there a band that turns you into a fan after you saw them live?
There was one, and I'm not. I didn't become like a super fan, but I saw Modest Mouse. I'd had friends try to kind of turn me on to Modest Mouse before that, and I heard a song or two that I didn't mind, but they really weren't my thing. I worked for Tower Records in their corporate office for a couple of years in Sacramento, and so I would get free tickets to every concert, free CDs. That was awesome, and the Shins were just coming out, and I really was into the Shins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked the label rep if I could have tickets to see the Shins at the Fillmore. And I thought Modest Mouse was opening for the Shins, but it was the other way around. So I went, saw the Shins, and loved it, and thought, well, I'm here, and the ticket was free, and it's an hour and a half drive back to Sacramento. I'll just watch some of Modest Mouse since all my friends think they're amazing. And they really were. It really turned me onto them. It was before the Good News for People Who Like Bad News album came out, but they played some of those songs. I really got converted. I thought it was great.
Nice. Next question would be, what is your most memorable or favorite brush with fame? It doesn't have to be music related.
Yeah, I was trying to think what this would be. Okay, so I've been to the Sundance Film Festival a few times. My wife and I used to go every year. We haven't gone the last few, but I went one time in college. This would have been 1999. I was writing about it for my college paper. And I met briefly Gene Simmons and Peter Gabriel.
Nice.
And that was interesting. I was at a movie, and Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke were sitting behind me. And Ethan Hawke was complaining about, well, you're the one who likes to go to all these kinds of things, not me. So he just was not into it. And we're sitting there waiting for the movie to start, and Peter Gabriel walks in, and he's just not who you think you're going to see at a movie in Utah,
Yeah.
But he comes in, and afterwards, everyone's ushered out the exits, and he and I end up kind of funneling through the bottleneck of the exit together and talking like the alley behind the theater for a few minutes. He was kind of weird. There was nothing special there. It's just seeing that guy in that environment was not what you expected.
Yeah.
A couple nights later, I saw Gene Simmons at a pizza place. And I remember, because there's a lot of big parties that go on at Sundance. So I was like, Gene, where is the party? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, you're Gene Simmons. Of course you know where the big parties are. And he's like, I don't know where they are. And if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. And he looked just how you imagine, with like the black skunk on his head, But
what an
anyway,
asshole.
so he kind of was. He was just really downplaying his Gene-ness,
God.
But anyway, it was cool. It was fun.
Nothing, and I might be biased, but nothing I've heard about that guy makes me like him.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
I know. He's a trip.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. All right. Okay, so next question would be, what piece of music memorabilia would you like in your house?
Oh, boy. I actually have one that's one of my favorite things. I have a gold record for the Killers' debut album, Hot Fuss.
Nice.
Because I was working at Tower at the time, and they decided that Tower had done a lot to help that album go platinum. So they gave all of us in the marketing department, gold records, just like you see in the movies and stuff. So I have one of those for the Killers' Hot Fuss.
Nice.
And that's kind of one of my, prized possessions or whatever. I don't know. I love David Bowie so much. It would probably be an outfit or a jacket or something of his, just to, hold and sleep with and drool on. I just love that guy. So anyway.
I don't blame you. He is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can switch gears and move on to the actual quick and quirky questions.
Great.
All right, awesome. Question 1. Would you rather speak all languages or play all musical instruments?
I think I've thought a lot about this. I think I would pick the languages just because it would be easier to communicate with everybody if you were able to do that.
Yep. That's my answer as well. And there was a poll on that on Twitter a few days ago, and I think it turned out 60-40 for languages.
Really?
Yeah, but if we ask the Name That Tune group, I'm pretty sure it would be the other way.
You're probably right. So many music lovers. And you would think I would pick the instruments, but I guess I don't know. I mean, what good is it to know how to play if you'd also have to hope that you could also write music or express yourself. There's more to it than just knowing what notes to hit. Whereas with language, that is expressing yourself. It's easier to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I don't. Who mentioned that? I think it was Glenn when he was on. There is a certain connection with music.
Yeah.
That's true. But I mean, I know I talk about that on the upcoming episode this upcoming Friday.
Uh-huh.
If you're being practical and if you like traveling, languages is the more there is more to learn from that out of that, you know. So yeah,
true.
All right, so next question: if you could get a ticket to any show or event, music or sports, past or present or future, what would you want a ticket to?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and two concerts that I wish I could go back and see are these are odd ones. I would want to go see Parliament Funkadelic in the late 70s when they were at their height with 20 guys in crazy clothes coming out of a spaceship on a large stage. Or I would want to see the Tubes, who are a band that I really like, but back in the late 70s in San Francisco, they would put on these crazy shows with like go-go dancers and choreography and set pieces. And just, I've seen videos of it on YouTube and it looks so fascinating. And I've gotten to know Fee Waybill a little bit. And so one of those, either those or seeing the Velvet Underground in Warhol's factory, one of those. I'll take any one of those.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's relative. I'm not going to say that's obscure, but that's not a standard answer, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
You know?
I know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is.
It's those little ones that I just am eternally curious about that I would love to see.
Nice. Question 3. What is your favorite insect?
This is the only one of all these questions that I really don't have a good answer for. I guess I'll say the bees, not because I have any affection toward bees whatsoever, but you just hear that if bees become extinct, our whole
we are in trouble.
Structure implodes. And so I'm all for, as long as I don't have to deal with the bees, I don't want our, civilization to crumble. So we'll say bees.
Yeah, we don't need that. We can make our own civilization crumble by ourselves. We are doing a great job of that.
We have that covered.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, question 4. What scene from a movie scarred you for life?
So I've thought about this, and in all honesty, I'm not a big horror movie guy anyway. To be completely honest, I think I sound a little bit like I'm stealing something from High Fidelity here. I would imagine I was far more scarred from watching, romantic comedies or seeing movies where things end up perfect by the end with the music swelling and problems being resolved and everybody, happy endings and two people who love each other finally coming together. I think that probably warped my sense of reality more than some scene in a movie that scared me. Though there aren't really any of those. I'm probably been more scarred by the the unrealistic depictions of romantic life in movies.
Yeah. No, I can understand, but there is nothing that jumps to mind, nothing specific.
No, I mean, I don't, just the collection of those 80s movies that I love so much, like 16 Candles or Say Anything or Can't Buy Me Love, or Can't Buy Me Love was probably a big one. Just I was the nerd and seeing in a movie the nerd getting the cute girl and it working out, and you realize that's never actually going to happen. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I think in some ways our ideas or our ideals of love and romance and relationships become formed from watching so many movies. And in some ways that's probably good, but in other ways, maybe that fills our head with things that are unrealistic.
Question 5. What is the best nickname you've ever heard?
I love this question. So, okay, I'm not saying this is the best nickname of all time, but in the early 80s, the Utah Jazz, my team, had a player named Billy Pultz, and he was this big, barrel-chested white guy, chubby, the most unsexy looking professional basketball player you've ever seen. And with that name, Billy Pultz, there's just nothing cool or intimidating about that.
How do you spell that?
Paultz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pultz.
All right.
And they called him the Whopper. And I'm not saying the Whopper is like the genius nickname, but it was so perfect.
Yeah.
That guy, that goofy looking white guy with the floppy hair and the big fat chest, being called the Whopper made so much sense.
It does. From your description, I kind of remember a guy that came in later, Greg Ostertag.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea how badly I hate Greg Ostertag.
Yeah, but
I hate him. Our teams were so good, and that guy ruined it. I'm sure of it. Yes. So Billy Pultz that I was talking, oh my gosh, I could go on for hours about Greg Ostertag. Billy Pultz looked like an even more awkward, chubbier Kevin McHale. Those kind of broad shoulders, like pale white skin, awkward looking, but a big body. Mm-hmm. Now, Kevin knew how to work his body. Billy was just a big body. But calling him the Whopper was just dead on. I love that.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. It made sense. Question 6. What would you name your boat if you had one?
I would name my boat whatever, because I say that word a lot. It's kind of I realized it's almost kind of a philosophy of mine, because what I'm saying is that I'm just kind of cool with whatever. Okay. I'm cool. You be whatever you want to be, say whatever you want to say. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And we're going to go out on a boat called whatever, and we're going to do whatever. And so it's that word. I say it a lot. I've probably said it a million times on here. And it's just because it defines a sense of casualness and open-mindedness to me that's just sort of like cool with anything. And so, yeah, my boat would be called whatever.
That works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Question 7. Where is the worst smelling place you've been to?
I've thought about this a lot, and I can't think of a certain place that smelled bad, but I will tell you probably the worst smell I've ever experienced.
Please.
And you don't have kids, Patrick.
I don't.
But let me tell you, there are these things called diaper genies. Okay? You change your kid's diaper, and you put it in this vacuum sealed garbage can. You squish it in there, and the smell doesn't come out. And they collect in this long, thin garbage bag. When it's full, you take the garbage bag out and you throw it away. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to smell anything.
All right.
What has happened to me before is that as I'm taking the diaper genie out to the garbage, it catches a rose bush or a lock somewhere. Ooh. And a little hole gets ripped in the side of this bag. And 3 months of your kids' crappy diapers now just pours all over you. So it's not a place, but a ripped diaper genie bag is probably the smelliest thing I can think of.
Yep. I don't think I could beat that. that works.
Yeah.
All right. So question 8, when did you screw everything up, but no one ever found out it was you?
Okay, so this is kind of a famous story. I'm a fairly little kid. I'm probably 12 or 13. It's a summer day. My dad, as I mentioned, was a flight attendant. He's on a trip, but he gets home that night. My mom is at work. My mom's going to pick him up after work. So he's probably going to be home around 6 or 7. And that day, me and my best friend, David Granger, and my siblings and their friends and whatever, we're making a total mess in the house. We had hundreds of those little Smurfs. Mm-hmm. Remember Smurfs, the little rubber figurines of Smurfs from the 70s and 80s?
Yeah.
We collected those things. And so my friend Dave Granger and I he was at the top of the stairs, I was at the bottom of the stairs, and we were pelting each other with these rubber Smurfs, just throwing them at each other all day. After this all died down, it's probably noon or whatever, and I'm realizing that the Smurfs, any Smurf that hit the wall has left a little blue scratch or skid mark on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm petrified because there are these blue skid marks all over the wall in the going up the staircase. And my parents aren't home, but they're going to be home in a little while. So I'm really ingenious about this. And I realized there is the paint that's on the wall. There's like an unfinished can of it out in the garage. So I go out in the garage. Now, keep in mind, I'm only like 12 years old. I'm really proud of this, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I go get the paint from the garage. I'm on the steps, the stairs, they're carpeted, and I'm taking a little brush and I'm just dabbing all the little blue skid marks, scuff marks on the wall to cover it up. As I'm done, the paint tips over on the stairs and, runs all the way down the stairs.
Jesus. Okay.
So T minus, Dad's going to be home in about 5 or 6 hours. And my buddy Dave and I are panicking. What are we going to do? They're going to find out. We're going to get in trouble. And I remember that turpentine takes out paint.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't have any turpentine. So I go up and down my street asking all my neighbors if I can borrow some turpentine. Someone gives us some. I go in, I pour turpentine all over the stairs where the paint has spilled, and no one ever found out. And it's kind of a famous story in my family now because now I can tell it and not get in trouble. But I totally got away with it back then. And I've always been really proud of that. Yes, there you go.
And the new paint on the wall didn't show at all?
No. So there you go. Okay, yes.
Wow.
I've always been amazed by this. So my little, clean up the scuff marks. It blended in well enough.
Mm-hmm.
The smell of turpentine was not so dominant that it didn't, or the fresh paint didn't tip anybody off. I don't know how I got away with this, I'm sure they weren't coming home thinking, they weren't looking for that kind of thing, but I totally got away with it. It was a masterful stroke on my part. If I'm honest about it, Patrick.
It was, I agree.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jeez.
I've always been proud of that.
Impressive.
Thanks. Yep.
Question 10. If you were given a 1-minute ad slot during the Super Bowl that you couldn't sell, you have to use it, what would you fill it with?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for this one because it would need to be a message that, I feel very strongly about certain things. One of them I think is going to come up in another question.
Mm-hmm.
But if I put I would want my message to be more universal. And so, because it needs to have the most impact. So if you take something that's too big of a stance one way or the other, only the people who already agree with you are going to hear this thing, most likely.
Okay.
And so I think it would just have to be probably a general message of tolerance or empathy or helping people. Or I don't think I could make it too political because I think it would end up not serving the people I was trying to reach with my message.
Half the people will tune you out immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. So it would have to be some kind of a message of tolerance or anti-racism. Hopefully that would be universal or something to that effect.
Okay. That works.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not more specific.
No, that's okay. That's not a problem. Are you good with overtime? I got more questions.
Yeah. Yes, bring whatever you want.
All right, awesome. Okay, question 1. You are going back in time and wind up face-to-face with 15-year-old you. You have 10 seconds before you travel back to the present day. What do you tell your younger self? 10 seconds.
I would tell my younger self, kiss every girl. Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. Do it. If you don't do it, you'll regret it. And I know that sounds almost chauvinistic in a way. I don't mean for it to, because like my whatever statement, that's a mind frame of just don't be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid. If you're there with the girl you like and it's the porch and it's the end of the night, kiss her. If you don't do it, you're going to regret it. And taking that chance in every aspect of life, I wish that I had been more ballsy when I was growing up. So I would say kiss every girl.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer. That's a pretty good answer.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good.
and
Pretty good.
I get what you're saying. Like you don't mean that in a sexually assault everything that moves.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I just as a mind frame of don't be afraid.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I'm thinking, but if you tell a 15-year-old boy, don't be afraid, they'll like, okay, thanks. But if you tell them, no, trust me, you're going to say goodnight to Abby Miller and you're going to have had a really good night and you're not going to kiss her and you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. So just kiss them. Just do it. Be gentlemanly about it, but do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That works. Question 2. If you could live in anyone's head for 15 minutes, a la being John Malkovich, who would you choose? You can only spectate. You cannot control them.
I've thought a lot about this, and as I think I would actually want to be in the head of a bad guy. When you first started this podcast and asked those questions, Trump was still in the picture. I would actually want to be in Trump's head for 15 minutes because anybody else who is hyper creative or somebody that I admire or respect, I may not be surprised by what I find in that head. But if I were to enter the mind of someone I cannot stand or an enemy of some kind, maybe I could come away with more empathy for them or understanding them better or understanding what makes them tick or understanding what motivates them to do the things that they do. And I could think of no more horrible person of the last few years than Donald Trump. And so I would actually want 15 minutes in that mind of his to see what's really going on in there to help me understand it better.
I think my biggest regret would be not being able to control that body.
Yes. Well, that's for sure. That's for sure. But I mean, I could say somebody like Neil Finn's head, like I want to know how Neil Finn writes a song, but I really don't. I want to experience Neil Finn. I want him to write the songs and me get to experience them. But if I can go in Donald Trump's head for a second and figure out what he's really thinking, what's really going on in there, maybe I would understand better. Maybe I'd have more empathy. Maybe I'd be even more angry. I don't know. But that's what I want to... There's just more to learn there, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I see what you mean, yeah. It would be a trip, for sure.
Yes, it would.
For sure. Would. Question 3. You are on death row. Tomorrow, you shuffle off this mortal coil. But you get to choose the way you will be executed. No matter the logistics involved, you can go big or small. How do you want to go?
I've thought a lot about this too, and I think I would choose the guillotine. And I wonder if it's because my wife has me watching Game of Thrones right now. So my mind is kind of in that state anyway. Mm-hmm. But I was trying to think, I mean, it's so quick. I mean, yes, it's painful, but it's over before you even know what's happened.
Yeah, I don't think it's painful, actually. I think it's too fast. But the thing is, there is this half a second that you can hear the blade, scrape down its rail, you know? That's gotta suck because I
know.
I think another thing that they used to do is they would put you, like they would tie you up on a board, but standing up, and then they would slam the board to the horizontal position, you know, and the shock would stun you for half a second, and then as soon as the board is slammed horizontally, you're dizzy for half a second while the blade falls, and then it's over.
Yeah.
So
I would rather have that half second of fear than imagine like 5 minutes of drowning or the desperation or something like that, you know, or being shot and like bleeding to death or pain or whatever. I mean, the quickest way to me would be a guillotine, just ending it right then and there.
Firing squad would be pretty horrific.
Yeah. but every shot, you know, there's even more room for at least a minute or two of pain or watching your body explode. At least this way, it's over. It's dark. Dark.
You can only hope for a good shooters. Yeah, and actually, I think what they used to do is, like on a firing squad of 10 people, for example, one of them would be given a blank. So you don't know if you fired the blank or the actual bullet. So you're kind of guilt-free. You know? Apparently, they used to do that. Apparently.
Murder logistics.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was Andy who mentioned morphine overdose.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
I kind of like that. I like the idea.
Yeah. Assuming there's no pain there and it's just like floating away into oblivion, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But
if that's true,
that
works.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm just trying to think of the quickest way to go out, and the guillotine is the best one I can think of.
Probably. Or maybe like having a massive bomb blow up right next to you.
True. Yeah.
I guess that works.
True. Yeah. Okay.
we are getting pretty grisly.
Let's keep going with this,
Yes.
Patrick. What are
Yeah.
some other great ways to die?
Well, drawn and quartered. That's,
Yes.
That's quaint. There's
a Catherine wheel.
Yes.
You could get run over by a tractor.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. Stampeded by horse.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plenty of options, and very Game of Thrones-esque.
Yes.
As well.
Very true. Yeah.
All right. So we can move on if you want.
Sure.
Question 4. Your superpower is that you can give phobias to people. You can give them fears. What things would you make people afraid of?
Well, it's so funny. My answer to this is something that I'm baffled is not already, people are not already in fear of, and that would just be guns. Like, first of all, no one needs them. I don't care what your argument is for defense or whatever. No one needs one.
That's a great answer.
And so, but somehow, some way, we got it backwards in our culture where people think they need this thing when in reality it should put fear in you. That there should be a natural fear or aversion to guns and gun violence, and yet we've got it twisted around. Yeah. And so it would need to be a reminder, like that you hold a gun or you see a gun and you get scared. You don't want any part of that. That's what normal, rational people think about. But we've got millions of people now that don't think like that. They think they're entitled to it. They think they need one, and it's foolish. And so I would want people to remember these are dangerous things that are of no use. So don't the inherent fear that you should have. Remember that.
Yeah.
Whatever Fox News told you to do is wrong. Go back to your natural state, which is to be fearful of something that might kill you or kill someone else.
Yeah.
That would be my answer.
Yeah. No, excellent answer. Question 5. It's a new question, actually.
Ooh.
You're the guinea pig.
Uh-huh.
Would you rather win $1 million tax-free, no questions asked, or be 10 years younger?
Boy, that's a tough one. I think I would probably have to go back, to be honest, because the $1 million. Okay, so let's think about that. $1 million these days, that's going to provide a good life for you for about 5 years.
No, come on. I mean, if you invest it, you can retire immediately. I'm sure of that.
You think so?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. If that's the case, then I would probably do that. Okay. Because I'm thinking if I went back 10 years and I was 37, I've talked a lot about regrets and wishing I had done things differently. Would I fix some of those things? I don't know. I would like to think I would. But if I had $1 million, I'm worried that would be really nice for a few years, and then I would go back to having to sell software for it.
Yeah, you see, you're overthinking things again.
Now we know why I'm where I am. Patrick, you get it, right?
I'm positive. I mean, tax-free $1 million?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you have a crazy lifestyle, you can retire off of that, I'm sure. Okay. I mean, I'm not an accountant, but I'm pretty sure.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll trust you then. If that's true, then I would rather take the $1 million and then just live the next 30 years at a reasonable cost of living and do some travel and submit articles to Rolling Stone.
Pretty sure that would work.
Okay.
Pretty sure. All right. So question 6, what is the best compliment you've ever received?
I forgot you were going to ask that question. That story I told earlier about Christopher Thorne and the blind melon email, that is the thing that has mattered the most to me, I think, in my life.
That works. Perfect. Question 7, what is your hometown best known for?
Mormons.
Yes.
That's pretty much it, Mormons. I was trying to think about that. There's no one really famous. We lived in a suburb called Sandy, suburb of Salt Lake City. The most famous person I know, I went to high school. He was kind of a friend of mine in high school named Will Swenson, who is he's a Tony nominated actor. He's more of like a Broadway actor.
Okay.
He's married now to Audra McDonald, who is a very famous black, she's like the most, I don't know, respected actress on Broadway. They got married a few years ago.
Okay.
We were in some plays together in high school. We didn't like hang out a ton, but we were friendly. So his name was Will Swenson. That's probably the most famous person that anyone might know. But otherwise, the answer is Mormons.
All right.
Yep.
Good enough. Good enough.
Yeah.
Question. Well, okay. I screwed up my list. I'm gonna call that question 7B. A mystic.
Okay.
That's a new question. Another new question. A mystical being appears and tells you that he can either tell you when you will die or how you will die. Which one do you choose? And you cannot say neither because then he will tell you both. So,
okay.
Either one.
I think I would rather know when than how, because let's say I die, the answer is you're going to die in a car crash. Well, then every time I get behind the wheel,
exactly.
I'm going to worry.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're going to die in 10 years, then I know I'm just going to do my thing for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Question 8. What is the best insult you've ever heard? Not necessarily directed at you.
Oh, boy.
Could be off of a TV show.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if this is the best answer, but this is the first one that comes to mind.
Sure.
One of my favorite movies. This is super nerdy. This is not a great answer, but I'm going to answer it because this is what's on my mind.
Sure.
When I was a kid, when I was little, one of my favorite movies was the Disney movie Swiss Family Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's listening to this, tell me we didn't all want to live in those tree houses that they made on that deserted island. Oh my God. And swing in the water and the waterfalls. Anyway, I wanted the Swiss Family Robinson life so much. And there were the two brothers, Ernst and Fritz. And Ernst is the younger know-it-all guy, and Fritz is the older brother who's more brawny and muscly. And they go exploring around this deserted island that they're stuck on. And Fritz makes some comment about Ernst. And he says, why do I need to read? Sooner or later, Ernst tells me everything he knows. And at the time, I remember thinking, ooh, that's such a good burn. Facial, that's such a good burn. So anyway, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Nice. That's good. Question 9. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, language not an issue, who would it be?
I would want to, I've thought about this too. So one of the people I would want to have dinner with would be Joseph Smith, the guy who started the Mormonism, because I just would want to get a feel for this guy. Millions of people have devoted their life to the claims this guy made almost 200 years ago. I want to see for myself what this guy, was he charismatic? Was he legit? Was he a con man? Yeah. Was he a liar? I'd want to see for myself. I want to get a feel for this guy. I devoted a big chunk of my life to this guy, so not as much anymore, but I'd want to get a feel for him. That's one.
Okay.
My favorite, the musician that when I think about him and I think I just want us to be friends so badly is Nile Rodgers. I love Nile Rodgers. He is so thoughtful. He loves all kinds of music. He's so funny and fun and knows everybody and has great stories. And I would love to hang out with Nile Rodgers.
Producer for Duran Duran and David Bowie.
Yes.
Among others.
Yeah. Among others, exactly. So, yeah, there would be that. And then
nice.
I would probably need to, so I have a religious person, a musical person, and I would probably want a sports person. And if I did, my favorite athlete ever is John Stockton, who is the
point guard
for the Jazz.
Yes.
I don't know how interesting a person he is, but I would love to sit and pick his brain and just tell him I love him for a night.
Probably has a few stories.
Yeah, I would think so.
If only from the Olympic team in Barcelona, the
Very
dream
true.
team. So,
yep,
that's
very
something.
true.
All right. Okay, so yeah, that's a good lineup. I like
Thank you.
that. And what would be on the menu?
Mashed potatoes and gravy.
Okay.
My favorite food is mashed potatoes. So yeah, just give me like a steak and mashed potatoes or something like that, and I'm fine.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, question 10. What's the biggest surprise you've had over the last few months?
My dad dying of COVID over the holidays is the big one. Yeah, he was fine, and about mid-December, my parents both caught COVID. My mom got the really mild kind where she just lost her sense of taste and smell or whatever, but he got the full-blown kind, and he was already diabetic, and he was getting really sick, and they put him in the hospital. And while he was there, he caught double pneumonia, and so within a week he was gone. And I have I love my dad, and we were close for a while. We've had a complicated relationship for the last few years. That's a whole other story. So on the one hand, it's kind of a relief because there's a lot of drama that's not in my life anymore.
Okay.
But that being a permanent solution to that is still, we're all still kind of coming around.
Yeah, and as you say, it happened so suddenly that,
Mm-hmm.
and with all the precautions, you probably weren't able to spend as much time as you would have wanted.
No, in fact, we were just talking about this today because my parents live in southern Utah, down kind of by Las Vegas, and every year we go to their house for Thanksgiving. And now that my dad's died, my mom is going to move up closer to Salt Lake City because that's where my siblings live.
Okay.
There's really no reason for her to be down there by herself anymore.
True.
And so we were just talking today about how, we'll never have another Thanksgiving, and like we're used to anyway. In fact, this last thing, my parents thankfully were being very careful. And so we didn't even do Thanksgiving this last year because it was a real heightened time and they were trying to be very careful. So we skipped it, and then they got sick anyway, and he was gone a month later. So
Yeah, that's.
yeah, it's unfortunate. We're still figuring it out.
I'm curious to see the way people will look back at this in 10 years.
Me too. Well, in all cases, I'm curious how people will look back. It's funny. I think about this a lot. Well, you hear this a lot. History is going to show that Trump was a monster, or history is
Yeah,
going to show
for sure.
that we mishandled COVID, or history is going to show this or that. What worries me about that, Patrick, is that there are so many different variations of history being written right now that we think we're looking at it from above and seeing it in its truest form, but there's half this country doesn't see what we see. They see a completely different history that to us is just crazy,
Yeah,
and not based in any fact.
that's
But
true.
they think that about us, and so you wonder, like, who's going to write the history?
Who's going to win?
And are the people who are denying that history is happening now going to accept it then? I don't know. I wonder if we're just going to have competing versions of history from this point on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they say history is written by the winners.
Yes.
I don't know if there's going to be any winners in
I don't
20
either.
years,
I don't either.
It's worrying.
Yes. I don't know how this is going to shake down.
And okay, so we Canadians and Americans, you guys are our best allies, neighbors, friends, and yet sometimes we look at you with a raised eyebrow
Of course you
and
do.
go, what the fuck are they doing?
Of course you do. Of course. I don't know how you couldn't. I mean, the whole world has to just be looking at us. I saw that, the news came out about Sarkozy being sentenced to 3 years of prison or whatever recently. And I just thought, oh, how would it be to live in a country that sees, corruption and punishes it and doesn't get all emotional about it? Well, if I punish this leader, that reflects bad on me because we're part of the same political party. It shouldn't do that. No. Wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
That's the part I don't understand. I'm sorry I'm getting on a rant, but these last 4 years, it's like good and evil has never been more obvious. How do we have so many people on the wrong side of that? I do not understand. I don't.
It's like a cult. You can have stacks of evidence pointing to the facts, and nope, fake news. That's what they want you to believe. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, to be honest. That's and actually that kind of links well with the next question. The next question is, what
Okay.
keeps you up at night?
Well, this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I have slept better ever since Biden took over. I'm just not full of anger and rage and confusion every minute of the day. You know what honestly keeps me up at night is thinking about my podcast a lot. I'm like, who I'm going to, I got to remember to ask this question. And if he answers this, I got to remember to go down this path. Or how would it sound if I asked this? And did I listen to enough? And have I thought about enough? And what am I going to say? And so I like script things in my head a lot, conversations that never even actually happen. But that's what keeps me up at night is like imagining scripts of conversations.
It's I know what you mean because I do the same thing sometimes, and that gets
Yeah.
exhausting.
Oh, it sure does.
So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Sure does.
I sympathize.
Yes. Yes.
Question 12, that's the last one. What is your sliding doors moment? What is your fork in the road?
Yeah, I think it might go back to that time when I switched my major from broadcasting to print journalism because that changed for whatever reason in that moment. And I still stand by this. I wanted to be a legitimate journalist, not a person in show business. And that seemed like the path to be taken as such in that moment. And I mean, to be completely honest, I don't know that there is, it's all show business now, so much of it. And if it's not literally on the TV, it's Twitter or TikTok or what. I wouldn't want to compete in today's media landscape, to be completely honest
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, I completely understand.
Yes, it's beyond me. I don't have it exhausts me. I like my little carved out niche for my friends and my podcast, and that's good enough for me, But I do, if I had not second guessed myself and believed in myself and thought, I'm just going to go for this thing that I want to do and hope for the best, who knows? I may not be a software salesman right now.
I mean, at least the good thing is you have full control of your podcast. You can take it in any
Yes,
direction, which is pretty awesome.
it's true.
When it comes to that, you are absolutely your own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that counts for something, I think.
It does. I'm very grateful that I get to do this thing the way I want to do it, the way I think it should be done. And there are times when I think about not doing it anymore, but because I've gotten so much out of it, I've gotten everything I could have dreamed. I'm friendly with some of my favorite musicians now. It just blows my mind. But so I did what I set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wonder if I had just pursued those dreams rather than talking myself out of them at a younger age when it made more sense to take risks like that, what would have happened?
Yeah. And okay, so that's the questions. But about the podcast, do you have an end game, or you're gonna do it as long as you enjoy it?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been, yeah, that's pretty much it. I, I would go up and down being kind of like over it, but also, and then enjoying it and over it. The last year and a half, I've really loved doing it. I will admit the last couple of months, I've been sort of tired of it again. I don't know. I've reached a point where I'm not able to get the people that I really want to get. And I love the people I am able to get, but you need those big whales to like really keep your tank full, to really feel like you're still into it. And those do still happen. I've got a couple of them coming up actually that I'm really excited about.
Is it okay? I guess it's a surprise, so I won't ask you to spoil anything.
Well, there's one that and see, these are excited to me. I don't know if they're exciting to everybody else. I think on the 16th of this month, I'm going to put out my interview with Will Sargent, who's the guitarist for Echo and the Bunnymen.
Oh, nice.
And that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him for years, and I even stalked him on Twitter. And so that episode should be coming out a few days before this, Will.
Okay.
And that refilled my tank. He was a very different person than I thought he would be. I'm not saying it's the greatest interview ever. It's good. But that was such a big whale for me that it kind of recharged my batteries for a while.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you can always take a break if you're feeling burned out,
Yeah. I know. I think about that a lot. I always keep like 5 to 15 interviews in the can just to help out during those times when it's like, I don't want to do anything for a month, but I've got plenty in the pipeline that I can just keep putting out the ones I've already done. And I'll get back to them when I feel like it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So, John, thank you for being here. Where can we find you online?
I'm most active on Facebook. You can just like our page, the Hustle Podcast, or however it is. It's a yellow logo with a record on it. That's probably my communication method of choice. I'm on Twitter. I'm not super active on there. So you can follow me at the Hustle Pod, but there's nothing special really going on Twitter. Most of the action happens on Facebook, I think.
Sounds good. All right. So thank you again for being here. I hope you had a good time.
I did. You're so good at this, Patrick, and you're so charming and so knowledgeable. And I love the questions that you ask. I love that you're doing this. I love that it helps us get to know each other better and the people we know and our friends circle and network and everything. I think it's really special what you've stumbled onto here. And I'm so glad that you're doing it because you're great at it.
Oh, thank you. You're going to make me blush.
Well, it's true. I mean it.
I mean it. I appreciate it. It's very nice. Thanks.
Good. You bet.
Right.
I mean it.
So thank you, everyone. And we will talk again on the next one. Bye.
Bye.